backstage with Howard and all them. Howard said to Eric, you know all the stuff that I say to you and everything for show that I really respect you. And Eric said, yeah. The only one of Eric, there's two that Eric thought that really didn't like him or had issues with him. He thought they weren't completely happy with the way Eric was. They felt the thing where Howard Stern exploited Eric and stuff. But when he was a kid, he always told his parents he was going to become a celebrity somehow. So he ended up doing what he said.
Did he always want to be an actor? Why did he love American Idol so much and Kelly Clarkson? What was the deal? Hello and welcome to another edition of Here's the Pitch. Jan Johnson over there. Who is Jan? Of course, he was Eric the actor's handler, your caregiver, right? You guys were. Tell. First of all, thank you for doing this. I appreciate it. And how did you guys get together? You went to high school with him. You knew him a long time ago, right? Tell me a little bit about how you guys met.
Met in junior high. I was in 7th and he was in 8th.
Were you always nice to him?
Oh yeah. Became one of his helpers in junior high, and we just became friends after that. And like in high school, his parents would go somewhere for the day or overnight, and I'd go help him. So I've been helping him pretty much since junior high.
Was he always sort of angry in junior high, even the way we knew him on the Stern Show?
No, nothing like the Stern Show. It was a character, but then he would keep it on with the fans because the fans would just rag on him after when he wake up that day after the show, because he'd wake up like 3 o'clock in the morning to call the show, then he would go back to sleep.
So, yeah, this just became really part of his life. So it's interesting to me because he'd call in and he was always so angry, but he would wait on hold. And then he'd get mad because he was waiting on hold. He's just the most interesting. And I even love that Howard, I watched one of these clips and Howard's like, you're the best guest. I think a couple months ago he even said, I'm not calling him a whack packer. He's the best guest we ever had. And I think it's kind of a nice tribute.
Yeah, Howard considers him the best whack packer. And most fans do. There's some fans that say Hank was the best, but most fans consider Eric the best. Eric was the one that would fight back the most. He wouldn't take no shit.
Beetlejuice is in there too, I think, in that running of Mount Rushmore's of greatest.
Yeah, Beetlejuice is just more popular because he's a train wreck.
Eric was club fucking footed, blotchy face. He had the gnarled fingers. I mean, he had a lot going on, so it seemingly he lived for the show. Is that what you felt like? Is that he really, as much as he got angry at it, he loved it.
Yeah. And when he was a kid, he always told his parents he was going to become a celebrity somehow. So he ended up doing what he said.
Did he always want to be an actor? I mean, that always seemed like a joke, but
he always wanted to be into music or acting. He would have probably became a police officer if he could have, because of his dad, but of course he couldn't do that. But he always had support for police officer, but he knew he couldn't do that, so he always wanted to be some type of entertainment.
And what would that? But he really thought he could act, though, right? I mean, that's what's hilarious about him. And he did. He actually got in some stuff. So I guess we're all out. He laugh was on with Eric. Did you make a trip to the show? He went obviously and met Diana DeGarmo in 2008. Maybe a great moment for him. What was that like? Just being around him for that. I mean, Eric had to be like that had to be the highlight of his life, right?
Yeah, Howard was really cool in person. He sat there and talked to Eric. I'd say a good hour after the show. Just sat next to Eric and talked to him.
I know a lot of people want to rip on Howard for kind of like maybe sort of exploiting these guys, but he did a lot for Eric, right? I mean, in the end, he did. He made Eric's life, even though Eric would yell at him and make him his idol. He'd be on the phone with him telling him he's an asshole, but it's still funny.
Yeah, and even like at the America's Got Talent, when we went to see him in San Francisco. And we were backstage with Howard and all them. Howard said to Eric, you know all the stuff that I say to you and everything for a show that I really respect you. And Eric said, yeah. The only one of Eric, there's two that Eric thought that really didn't like him or had issues with him. He thought Gary didn't really like him, and Fred, he thought had issues with him.
What about Artie? How did he enjoy Artie? Just kind of giving him so much shit.
Oh, yeah, he liked to argue with Artie.
So, as I think about this, was Eric putting us all on? Was he had his own character, and we as fans didn't understand that he had his own character he was working on?
Till later on, yeah. Most fans started figuring out towards the end, but at first, yeah, he had everybody believing that's how he really was. Because like the first live comedy shows we would do, people would be afraid to come up to Eric and talk to him, and would like try to run up behind me and ask me, "Will Eric talk to me?" I'm like, "Yeah, he liked the show." And if you talk to anybody that met him at the shows, they'll say the same thing.
Was he angry about the 0.0 audio clip that was played probably 1 million times by Fred?
He was annoyed by that, yeah. The biggest thing that would annoy him was that sound, the or whatever. Ack. Sound, and the balloon thing. He never planned on doing the balloon thing, and he knew his doctors wouldn't allow him, but he kept on letting it go on with it. But then it just never ended the fans, so the fans would pick on him about it. So he'd get irritated as hell, especially after there was some dude in Canada, I think it was, that flew on like a lounge chair.
I don't remember that, but I don't remember that. But I was going to ask you about flying with balloons. We never got to see that, did we?
Yeah, it never would have happened. Howard knew that too, but it was good for the show, so it just kept on going.
Yeah. Well, I looked at it. I looked at his Twitter, which is still out there, obviously, which is kind of funny, and it's all in caps, and he's yelling at fans, and it's just, it's so hilarious to me that he was pretty much to the end kind of the same guy.
Yeah, if he was on Twitter nowadays, he would probably got kicked off a long time ago because they would consider it bullying and all that type of stuff. Said to Artie, I think, one time, and his post got removed from Facebook, and he was for bullying and all this stuff. So Eric would have probably got in trouble for bullying always.
It's funny, right? Yeah, the guy in the wheelchair is the bully. It's pretty hilarious. The 3'5". Why did he love American Idol so much and Kelly Clarkson? What was the deal?
I think that was because he liked music so much, and before American Idol, he was a fan of Star Search, and that's one of the things he actually wanted to get on when he was younger. He wanted to get on Star Search as a singer. So I think he just kind of felt he really liked how you could vote for people and have control of the show. And then he hated when somebody like, and then he started hating with like somebody like Sanji or whatever his name was.
Sanjaya.
To keep them in the show because it was just a train wreck.
I think Howard did that on purpose to ruin Eric's enjoyment of the show. Sanjaya was winning every week.
Yeah, because it made good show. Eric getting pissed off about it. There wasn't too many guys that he was fans with on the American Idol. It was usually girls.
His love of the
of course, a few of them he had crushes on.
It's funny. Though of course we can understand his love of the WWE. He would have been a perfect heel manager. But that was pretty cool that Howard made sure anytime they had a Stone Cold Kurt Angle, he'd be able to get Eric on the phone with him, and he'd get those questions in. And he was so serious about wanting to ask those guys questions. He really loved it. Well, he died at 39. He died at 39 years old. I think you had just kind of stopped caregiving for him, right? Tell me a little bit about the end there, because we weren't thinking this was. I mean,
it was actually the day before I was leaving. His parents were already heading down the next day, or 2 days before I was going to leave. His parents were coming down the next day, and he was getting really sick. And I was like, man, you need to go to the doctor. And then I called his brother, which his brother is a paramedic, and he's like, yeah, take him to the hospital. I'll call my parents. And his dad rushed all the way from up in the mountains and got there, and he passed soon after his dad got to the hospital.
What was it like for you, and as you think back on it, just the fact that maybe, you probably assume this guy's going to live a long life, right? Because he's just doing his thing, and it didn't seem to have really any health problems.
And besides his breathing and heart problems, it wasn't getting any worse. But for some reason, I don't know what happened. His kidneys had started shutting down. That morning when I seen him, he was really jaundiced. And so then when we got him to the hospital, all of his organs started shutting down. Probably about just after the second time of going to the ranch, and that was the thing that a lot of people thought that him going to the ranch did it.
But that's not true.
Yeah, but I think it was just his heart was getting worn out because he wasn't supposed to live past his teenage life, and all of his stuff was already a little bit weaker than normal. So, and then, like you were saying earlier about his hands and everything, that's all part of the Ehlers-Danlos syndrome. It makes the bones it has a lot of the traits of brittle bone disease. That's what a lot of people thought he had.
I saw that you could make donations back when he passed. Is it still? Are you still taking donations for him in his name?
You could still send a donation in his name to Shriners Hospital. Actually, for my birthday yesterday, I was doing a fundraiser for Shriners on Facebook. As far as I know, till now, they haven't had anybody ever give as much donations to them in anybody else's name. Eric is the highest honored donation.
That's great, yeah. What did Eric's parents think of all of the success and fame that he was getting? Did they enjoy it, or did they think it was, what did they think?
At first, of course, they weren't completely happy with the way Eric was. They felt the thing where Howard Stern exploited Eric and stuff, but then they started seeing how much it did for Eric, and they kind of said, well, if Eric doesn't have it, then we don't have a problem with it.
Does he have siblings? Does he have a brother or sister?
Eric has one brother, younger than him, that's a firefighter.
Okay, so normal size, normal everything. How did he enjoy this?
Yeah.
This stardom.
He didn't tell anybody that he was going to the ranch the first time. His parents were on a cruise in England, and he didn't tell his brother. And his brother didn't find out till all the people came to the fire station and told him, hey, your brother's up at the ranches. And so he called Eric. You know what that's going to do to mom and dad? They were too happy about the first time.
He was great. It's funny. This was fun to kind of just walk down memory lane because it does give you this feeling of him. Jan, I don't have any other questions. Do you have anything else you wanted to add about Eric before we say goodbye and let people know anything?
Not that I can think of. Pretty much most of the stuff you heard on the show was bits that him, me, and Johnny came up with. I'd help him sometimes, but usually it was him and Johnny. And Howard, 90% of the time, was not in on it. And till later on, Howard didn't realize that most of it was a bit. And Howard started realizing that when Eric came into the studio and seen how Eric really was.
You guys were producers.
So and that's why Howard had a lot of respect for Eric, because Eric didn't just cave in and do whatever people wanted him to do. He would fight.
Well, he brought us a lot of fun, and I appreciate you kind of sharing some stories. I know a lot of people will want to hear your thoughts. People love hearing about these characters from the show, and you were there with him all those years. So I thank you. And sorry he's gone, but again, great memories, and there's lots of video and lots of audio to watch. So we can always have him in spirit.
And at some point, after hopefully in the next couple months, my dad's leukemia will start getting better, where I don't have to constantly be at the hospital and stuff like that. At some point, on probably the Facebook group for Eric the Actor fans, people have been asking me to do a Q&A or ask me anything, so I'll probably be doing that. So when I do that, I'll let you know, or you can let people know that I'm going to be doing it too.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, you have a huge following over there. Good luck to you. Good luck to your parents. I know it's tough. Again, I just went through it, but sounds like everybody's kind of on the mend, and you're obviously, like I said, doing God's work. So I appreciate you coming on here. We'll post this in Eric the Actors Forum. I'm just going to wrap up by saying to the folks at home, bye for now.
Bye for now.